Hello, hello. Just waiting for this to load up. There it is. Yay, there's my screen. Okay. Alright, alright. So, oh my goodness. Oh, how is everyone this evening? Afternoon, whatever the case may be. I hope you are well. I am well. I am still wearing scratched glasses, but they were supposed to be here today. They did not show up. That's okay. They'll be here. But in the meantime, I feel like I have something on my glasses. So it's driving me nuts. Uh, Chesky, I have a tarot reading prepared that I just drew, actually. I don't really prepare it that far in advance. I do it in that little 15-minute window, quite frankly. Um, make a bunch of notes of my impressions so I don't forget as I get sidetracked and chatting. But also, I realized I have a bunch of readings that I haven't done, so I apologize if somebody's watching and they're like, "That's me," and they're like, "Where's my reading?" I'm sorry. I'm getting them done. I'm working on them. I I had the little one the past couple days, and it's warm outside, and she's very active. Not getting very many minutes of quiet time. But at any rate, I will work on them this evening and tomorrow. So yeah, I pulled 5 cards like a life path, and then 3 oracle this time. I felt like there was a little bit more that needed to be added. Um, and why not? Because so the foundation. I'm just gonna get into it because I don't really have anything else to talk about anyway. Um, foundation this evening is the Nine of Cups. Cups is talking about our feelings. So, if in general, this is a water type situation, and the Nine of Cups is really talking about there's almost a feeling of um, celebration or completion of something that maybe isn't noticeable to others, but something you personally have accomplished, something that you personally were struggling with that you just decided to go ahead and do, and then you did it, and you feel like you've achieved this. So there's this underlying overwhelming feeling of uh, kind of a spaciousness. There's possibilities now. A little bit euphoric in some cases. It can definitely be clearing to the mind. It can help the mind feel a lot less cluttered, to get like that one thing that's been eating away at you out of your head. You just handled that one thing, and now it feels like so much weight is just completely taken off of you. And that's the goal, is we're trying to connect to that feeling of wholeness, and that feeling can be very easily taken from us with when we're distracted with all these things that we are uh, trying to get away from. But in this case, we didn't do that. We actually like took some steps. So um, you're actually taking responsibility for creating the next steps in your mission by actually recognizing the energy that you're putting into it is what's coming back to you. So this is a lot bigger than just like wishing and wanting and hoping. This is actually taking responsibility for and taking steps towards creating that energy, and getting really, really honed in with it. Making a declaration of this is how it's going to be from here on out. I understand this now, and you can move ahead without the understanding of uh, you don't need to seek the understanding of the how as much as it's now like, what your reasoning is behind your next steps. So that's kind of taken you into a next level moving forward in goals. um, and those next steps that come, they come because of joy, because it's working out and you're taking the next steps, and then the next one, it's more fun, and then you keep going, right? So this is about regeneration, um, resulting in, because we're clearing the mind and we're handling these individual things instead of running away from them, a stronger psyche overall, more stability there in relationships that ultimately feel free of guilt and regret, and are positive and mutually beneficial. So thank you for you're my first subscriber, I think. I appreciate that. So that's the foundation position. um the will position is the fire inside, the desire, the want, what you're actually hoping to achieve. And in this time, a lot of times when I come in and talk about the temperance card, because the temperance card is like the hard road. That's the tough stuff. That's the seeking balance, but it's like trial by fire. So it's the kind of a life where a person is really determined, but yet there seems to be a lot of obstacles along the way. It seems to be a lot of extra work. Why isn't it easy? I don't understand why my road is harder. That's the temperance road. And there's lessons to be learned from that part of the path. It's not the whole path, it's just part of the path. And once you learn the components of this card, it tends to be a lot less um, overwhelming. In fact, it starts to kind of be almost a little bit of a challenge, a fun challenge to overcome. Um, but it's about ultimately being kind of astonished by the beauty of the both aspects of life, where there's a great deal of beauty and peace, but there's a different kind of beauty in chaos and in that kind of energy. Um, when we take time to reflect on and enjoy both aspects of this, where we're seeking that balance, the path just kind of opens up. It just becomes a lot more clear when we're actually focused on the being present and aware of, and moderation in a lot of things leads to better healing. So it's trying to avoid the extremes, but utilizing the difficulties and the challenges along the way to be smarter and wiser and stronger. So it's learning to blend that energy, to find peace in every situation, and becoming a lot more finely attuned. This card just feels a lot more at the experience level, rather than addressing people who are just kind of going, why is life so hard right now? It's like, well, you've already accomplished that part. So now you're just working on attuning um, that balance and integrating the lessons that have been learned over all of this time, and using that maturity and wisdom that comes with that uh, to achieve this inner calmness that is ultimately the goal. But what comes with that, there's a level of balance and priorities that are required here. Um, and part of that becomes learning to accept that. Um, oh, really? That's good. I feel like there's a lot here that might resonate in a lot of ways. So hopefully there's something that you can take from it. Um, because it's about talking. Like, this card is about finding majesty in the ordinary. because there's so much struggle and difficulty along the way, that sometimes just it's just the simplest little thing that can just be really amazing. Then you're just like, that is awesome right there. um, the pain that you experience through the challenges almost become a catalyst, because then you're like seeking more out of life to reach beyond that. And so it kind of becomes a cycle of creation, and for people that are able to express it in some way. But the card is wanting you to kind of release past all these things, like take what's good and learn, and like dance with it, like dance with the ups and downs. Learn to really kind of appreciate the movement and flow of things, because it doesn't always make sense. But if you trust your instincts and you trust that voice that kind of speaks to you and tells you what you're supposed to be doing, um, it's going to introduce you to a new perspective and a new view on what's next. So it's leading you there. Once you learn to master that energy, it's really cool. The less suffering, not cool, really. I guess that's it's not as miserable all the time. But so the air position, it always blacks out. I need another camera. Um, the air position comes up with a star, and the star's got some really heavy vibes here too. The air position is talking about what comes to pass, because we have choice in many things. Um, and oftentimes we can navigate around certain situations, but there's also things that just kind of come across our path and we have to deal with them. For whatever reason, that's where you're at, and that's what happened, and it is what it is, so you deal with it. But in this situation, this is talking about, the star is really about kind of this bliss and hope and manifesting in a general sense. But um, thinking about yourself as the energy of the star, and the light that you are putting out constantly, and what you're doing with your energy, um, and learning to kind of trust completely that that's what you're supposed to be doing with it. So we don't generally, and it's interesting that you're actually in here because typically we don't look and see what kind of work goes into that, being able to present that energy outward to people, to be that like beacon, is a lot more difficult than someone initially would see. There's a lot of focus and determination. There's a great deal of self control that goes into it, a lot of patience, obviously, and a great deal of sacrifice. So, what the card talks about, though, is that this energy has been made available to you, it's been given to you, and that you'll always find some renewed sense of purpose going back to it. And you're supposed to be using it to dream big, you're supposed to be inspired by it, and you're supposed to be sharing the gift. So um, there's a point that comes forward in the future at where you're being called upon to do that, to be you in your best self. And in doing so, you're actually kind of, I always smack my freaking mic, like I'm talking with my hands. Um, in doing so, there's actually a lot more that comes from that. It becomes the energy point for bigger manifesting by embracing that energy. And no one said it's easy, but doesn't mean it's not important. Um, so, in contrast to the air position, the free will comes in play. Of course, at some point, we have to actually, you know, address that. Which one am I at? Oh, yeah, Seven of Swords. This one's tough. This is hard. This one hit me a lot too because the whole reading did, as usual. It always hits me really personally, uh, because I'm reading for everyone, which includes myself. And it's just a lot more broader perspective. And then it just like there's little stuff that clicks personally, and then you just go, "Oh, I hate that." Last couple of them got me good. Um, they were mean to me. Anyway, the Seven of Swords, wanting a little bit of what isn't actually yours can, when we want what's we haven't reached yet, and especially when we do so under deception or manipulation, or if there is some kind of betrayal in order for you to accomplish um, getting this. Um, it can go two ways. You can either choose to expose yourself, or you can and just take responsibility and handle the shit, or it's going to expose you. Basically, that's what it talks about. But I mean, we're culture values deception. It values putting on a mask and giving it what it wants. So we tell stories that are exaggerated or elaborated upon in some way that's not necessarily always 100%. And so we do this, we enhance our lives, especially with social media. We put on the mask, we put on the story, we make it drip with excitement. And beneath this, we're all facing the same um, challenges within love and relationships, with insecurities, with seeking approval, with loss, with feeling abandoned, and ultimately, what we're desiring is a wholeness, and we're going about it the wrong way. And if we're not being honest, fully honest about ourselves and our situations with all people that we are involved with, or we're trying to take shortcuts, or we're trying to, um, feel a little bit like we deserve more, until before it comes to us, all we're really essentially doing is delaying that actual accomplishment. um, and that becomes a pattern, and it becomes a pattern that is easier to perpetuate than it is to break away from. So sometimes there's some brutal honesty required. Sometimes there's some, and not in the way of just being a dick, but actually like being honest with yourself about um, something that you truly want to move forward with or do not want to move forward with, and whether or not there is any integrity to be restored to a situation. So a lot of times these cards, um, there can be, and sometimes people will find that they're like, well, this doesn't necessarily resonate with me. And it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily resonate with each person, but also sometimes it resonates in different ways. So with this Seven of Swords specifically, we're actually dealing with what's kind of a personal deep dive into what are you still pretending, and will it is it holding you back by continuing to hold on to these ideals or to these individual personal connections or um, situations. um, Myself personally, I identified some work that I was trying to justify doing because it was easier to just go along with it than it was to just admit that it was really unsatisfying. And there's a great deal of um, I'd been talking myself up about it for a long time, and it was really not doing me any good to do that. It was holding me back. It's only partially managed at this point. Um, and I recognize now that there's a lot more that I have to actually do in order to move beyond that. So, um, the advice card in this situation from this tarot deck, I think the better advice comes from the oracle. So I'm just going to hit on this briefly. Is the Hierophant. The Hierophant actually asks you to investigate your system of beliefs and kind of reevaluate um, what you're really feeling and thinking, um, what your greater understanding is about purpose and where you feel you're headed in it. It can also be suggesting that you might actually be feeling more constricted than you're acknowledging, and that you want to actually you're feeling suffocated in some of these ways, and wanting to establish some new paths, some new ways of working through it. um I think the advice is better explained in the oracle, which is why I continued to draw instead of stopping where I was at. So this flamingo is what's the name of the card? Embrace the in between. I really love the concept of this card because it's it's forcing you to kind of stop and recognize that you're not who you used to be, but you're not who you're trying to be yet. And there's a level of tension that comes from that, because you're conflicted in between these what was and what will be lives. And so it's asking you to kind of find a certain level of uh, peace in the uncertainty of it. Like you've kind of developed the path already. It's already there roughly. So you don't really have to worry about being taken too off course. You just need to trust yourself and your instincts and what you're feeling. Um, but you just have to also recognize that you can find peace during that transition, during that transformation process. And whatever work needs to still be done can just be a part of the process. It doesn't necessarily have to be the stuff that you don't want to do, don't like, and hate, and is miserable. Shadow work isn't always terrible. Sometimes it's funny. We have, we've had some great conversations about our petty shadow bitches. Um, the Bobcat Spirit is one of my favorite cards too. I really like this deck and whole lot. Just I think I say that about every. It's like I say that about every Fake for Friday. I say that about every Oracle card. Uh, it's just a good one. The Bobcat card, though, life is a mystery. Sometimes we spend an awful lot of time trying to explain things that we become aware of. Like, there it is in front of us, and we're just like, this makes no sense. I don't like it at all. Um, so you try to figure out, oh, sorry, the Bobcat Spirit? There is the I don't think I did this one. Flamingo Spirit. There's the Flamingo, and then we're on Bobcat Spirit right now. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining in. Just reading a couple of Oracle cards if you're just joining in here. And then I can do some live readings after I get through these next two cards. If anyone's interested, you can just kind of holla at me and say you want me to draw a card or two, and I'll draw the next couple of them for you. So I'm just going to get through these two oracle cards on the rest of this reading, and hopefully you'll go back at the beginning and listen to the full reading because I think it's pretty good. So the Bobcat, Life is a Mystery. It's just way too big for us to understand. Like, there's just a lot of things that occur, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And yeah, we'll do that in just a few minutes, Lou. Um, but what this card asks you to do is um, to stop trying to come up with an answer to why you feel the way you feel, why things are happening the way they're happening. It doesn't necessarily look maybe the way that you thought it was going to, or uh, but it feels right, and you're going with it. It's just you're trying to come up with these answers. How does this happen? I don't understand the way that this works. You're not going to gain satisfaction from doing that. And that's my favorite thing to do, is to overanalyze the crap out of things that aren't. And cool. Yeah, come back after the stream and listen to the rest of it if you get a chance to. I'm sure more will come up through the course of the evening as well, because I'm going to read some more cards. But you never know. And if you want me to draw a few, come back. Um, so the Bobcat spirit's really, you know, sometimes the fun is just letting it reveal itself. Like, we don't need to know what it looks like. We don't need the answers. We don't need to have the grand picture locked in. Sometimes it's really just nice to, be along for the scenic route and just see what happens. It could be really good. It could be better than you think. But if you don't allow yourself the opportunity, you're never going to actually come to that point. So you have to just like let go of needing to know why or how, or locking in all the answers. And it will show you through experiences that it's got you, that it's reading you, that it knows what you want. And the more that you trust yourself, and the more that you read yourself and feel the path yourself and feel that connection, the easier it is for you to just kind of let go and relax. And almost relaxing to the point where you're really like not even honing your vision in anymore. You don't need to see the details. You can just kind of like take in the general shape of things and the general tone and the general color and energy, and just go, yeah, that's cool. That's good. It allows you to see other things that you didn't know were there. For one, you might see movements occurring, or you might pick up a clue into something and go, well, that's really interesting. But if you're focused too much on details, if you're focused too much on honing in on finding these direct answers, and you must have them now and it has to be just like this, you miss all of that. So, Life is a Mystery, Bobcat. Um, the revelations will come. It will all make sense eventually. When you get to where you're going for this part of the journey, you will see it when it's time. For now, you're just supposed to feel the divine pulse. You're supposed to just feel your way through what feels right, what feels good. Just go with it. Just trust yourself. If you're overthinking it, you're not believing it. You're doubting it. So you have to just kind of go with it. And even in some situations, enjoy a little bit of the secrecy and the surprises that come from it. The surprises can be really fun. And when we allow ourselves to enjoy that, we allow more possibility to tie in. So the last card, this one you can barely see in the camera, sorry. Just the blues in this deck in particular. This one's called Surrender to the Sweetness. And it says Venus energy, pleasure, joy, making love to life. I love this card because this is something that I've learned probably most recently, just within the last few years. For sure. I'm going to do this last one. We'll catch you later. Surrendering to the sweetness, taking the fruit of what you've grown and actually tasting it, and actually enjoying it for a minute. Just a minute. You don't have to stop forever. Just a minute. There is a lot of grace in just having a simple bounty. You don't need to be extravagant, but just taking that moment to breathe. Time is our most precious commodity. That's the one thing that we're not actually guaranteed to have forever. Time. So that is the most precious. And when we do nothing but work, we don't take the time to play and enjoy it, we get very disconnected from ourself, from that wholeness that we're seeking, from the balance that we're seeking that allows us to be peaceful, that inner peace that we're looking for. We're spending so much time building. I use this analogy all the time, and I know that I've used this before with Chesky, so I'm going to use it again. Sometimes we decide that we are building something, and we work so diligently on this thing that we are building that we have not stopped to step back and look at how much we have already accomplished. Like, you've already got a tower that's way bigger than what you thought it was, but you just haven't taken the time to actually admire it. You just haven't enjoyed any of it yet. So what are we building it for? If not to enjoy it? You have to enjoy it. I always smack it. I'm sorry, I smack my mic all the time. It's my thing now, I guess. It's just where it sounds the best. My apologies. When we get trapped into this cycle of survival, working to survive, and then even beyond the survival, now we've gotten past surviving, now we're doing okay, but we just haven't stopped doing the same thing we've been doing since we were starving. You just can't stop it. You just, because you don't know when the next thing is going to happen, so you just keep your head down and keep working, keep working, keep working, and you're determined that at some point somebody's going to be like, hey, you made it, you're there, you're good. They're going to tap on the shoulder and you're going to look, oh yes, I'm done. Like, no, that's not how it works. You have to stop and check your own status every once in a while. You have to make time for that. You don't want to get stuck into that cycle of survival. It's soulless. It sucks the creativity out of you. It sucks the energy and the life out of you. You don't want to have engagements with individual people. You don't want to go do stuff with people. You just want people to just not exist, preferably, because you're so exhausted. But it's not like that after you've actually taken some time to really take stock in what you've got and enjoy it for a minute. We dream our dreams and then we let them lead us to exhaustion, but this card says it's time to come back. So you need to focus on what actually matters, and that is actually living your life and enjoying it, not just the survival and the success. It's the other parts too. So it's the oracle cards advice. So if you didn't hear the first part, there is a good deal of me talking prior to this, in regards to the rest of this. Anyway, let's see. Lou, are you still here? Are you still here, Lou? You're still here. Oh, hey there. Hello. Alright, let me get these decks out of here. Or this deck out of here, anyway. Get the other deck out and shuffle. Let's see what we got. Well, we'll probably pull some oracle cards too, but let's see. So you just need to concentrate on what it is that you're looking for answers to. And if you don't have a specific idea, just think about clarity and having answers on anything that you might need answers to. That's what the cards are going to do. Okay, I feel better about that deck. Now let's handle this one. How to be about get out of your own head? Well, it probably will be because there's something you're in your own head about. So it's probably going to be whatever you're in your head about. And if it's a lot of things, it'll give you some general advice about how to handle the things in your head. Usually, generally speaking. But let's see, because sometimes people will say, "This is what I want the cards to tell me," and the cards will be like, "No, this is what you need to know." And then later they'll come back and be like, "Oh, that made more sense now." So let's just see what they have to say. Oh, so let's do 3. Oh, well, interesting. Interesting. This is I'm gonna work through each card for you real quick. We're looking at the 9 of Wands. You think that you are farther behind than you actually are in some aspect of your life. But in actuality, it's just that we put a tremendous amount of effort into some things that are great, and they don't come easily, and then we find a tremendous amount of challenge along the way, and every step is agonizing, and we wonder if we're ever going to get to it, and we ever going to reach the part where we can celebrate and say, yes, I've actually gotten this goal accomplished now. And this card comes up and says there's a little bit of frustration in the process here. But it's also encouraging you to continue exactly what you're doing. It's actually saying that, like, you're thinking too hard, just continue the doing. It might not make sense right now, whatever you feel inspired to do, but there's going to be some reason behind it. It looks as though there's some kind of endeavor that's wrapping up here. Now, the 10 of Pentacles that I just dropped on the floor. See if I can reach it. I keep doing this. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. See if I can get it to myself. I did it last night without messing up my screen. Very tricky, but I got it. The 10 of Pentacles has some indication of some wanting to have some security, and possibly it can almost lead to an uncomfortable level for the situation. You don't want to allow that to become too much. Like, it's not about what you end up with in the situation. It's not about it's more about the peace of mind that we're looking for here rather than the tangible items. So this is kind of suggesting that you take stock in the real important stuff and be wise and protect yourself and protect your family, but not to where it becomes overly protective or you start pushing boundaries or almost challenging or inviting issues. Hopefully that makes sense. The 7 of Cups is suggesting that the state of mind that you're feeling in your own head is due to a conflict in some of your belief systems where there is a level of confusion and uncertainty in how you should address the next steps in your life. Something makes sense that you weren't expecting. That can cause people to feel very ungrounded, very unstable in their own thinking patterns, causes a lot of inner tension, a lot of inner conflict, and ultimately it can make us make some really bad decisions. We can kind of just be very erratic at this point because we don't know what the answer should be. So when this card comes up, especially when it comes into this position where it says you may be presented with some situations that you feel like you have to make a decision, and this is saying absolutely do not. Not only do you not have to, you can take your time, but it's advisable for you to take a little bit of time to finish processing what your decisions are going to be like. Now, there's some really good insight and answers coming forward here, though. So you deal with this, but there's something that kind of makes it easier for you. The Mother of Pentacles. You have a character in your life that would represent and reflect these particular qualities that you would admire, but the cards also talk about you reflecting these particular qualities, and that does not mean anything in regards to uh, gender or sexuality. This is just talking about actual qualities of an individual person. And what the Mother of Pentacles or the Queen of Pentacles is best for, she has taken, in some situations, almost nothing, and through very careful cultivation and tending has created something from it that is rather bountiful. She has a special skill about her, and it's saying that these skills are reflected in you, that you personally can take something that is very unimpressive and with patience and with nurturing and with being very intuitive and in tune with what's going on around you, you too can make something really significant of this. It does take a tremendous amount of focus in order for this to happen. And not only is she very nurturing and patient, but she's very perceptive and in tune with her surroundings. So she's not tightening it down or going into the head. What she's actually doing is opening up the senses and being more aware and more present with what's going on. This is going to make her help her become help you become a better decision maker ultimately with what's coming forward. Now, it's really interesting for me was that the Empress came up next. So this is some feminine influence in life, whether it's taking a turn for you addressing some of these aspects of the self, which it usually is also. It's inner and outer, what we experience, like as above, so below, as within, so without. So whatever we're reflecting and experiencing, we're also healing within ourselves. So you're coming up with the Empress. The Empress is an even bigger reflection of these ideals from the Queen or Mother of Pentacles, but also can indicate a very strong presence in your life that will help you regain some of that peace of mind. The Queen, the Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, and the Empress are both very much in tune with nature, and sometimes a lot of times the recommendation that comes with these cards is taking some peace, personal peace, space in nature, away from others, away from, and just to be able to think and address some of the things that you're dealing with, and see what steps you could take to get outside of them. Now, this can in some cases mean that you want to ask this person for advice. They may have some good advice for you. They may have some influence if you're willing to listen to it. They may not be willing to offer it until you're ready to hear it. So you may have to present yourself in a way that says, okay, what's the other way of doing this? So sometimes we need that other influence. Now, the Empress is also, not only is she nurturing, she's very patient, but she's also, of course, that presence. This is a more stable energy with her. She's the mother of creation. She's the mother of everything. She is rebirth. She is fertility. She is creativity. In some situations, if she was in a different position, I would specifically say that this might lead to parenthood. In this specific situation, I don't think that's necessarily the influence here, but the I'm not going to count that out. But I don't think that's the influence here. That's not what I feel. This feels more motherly, sisterly, aunt, grandmother, important woman, and it could be a wife in a leadership capacity, or a girlfriend in a capacity of being you're going to be a dad in October. Well, there we go. Your mother of creation seems to be the focal point here. I would say, looking back at this, there's taking stock of your finances and material is important, but it's not the only thing, right? You got to protect your whole family. So there's going to be a lot of ways to do this, and you want to be not thrown too far off your balance where you're making erratic decisions. And congratulations, I will say, being a parent is wild. But I will say this, with our two mother cards here, what this says to me is that the biggest challenge is going to come from the relationship aspect for you, because there's going to be a lot of new here, and it's going to be hard to know how to apply this energy to fix it, to fix what's wrong, whatever's wrong. You don't know what's wrong. Who knows? We never know. Things happen. Maybe the baby's crying, and your wife's crying, or your girlfriend's crying, or your partner's crying, or maybe things have just been a very hard day and you have no idea and you want to fix it. We always want to fix it, and we can feel helpless. And especially the partner who was not the birth giver in the actual act of, can feel very disconnected and disjointed with that aspect, and feel like you don't know what your next step should be. So there should be some level of, um, finding some stillness, and not tearing at yourself for where you're at. You're doing the best that you can, and you're going to be fine. And when you are dealing with the stresses of being a parent, remember the mother of creation is one of the greatest gifts that we're allowed to experience in this lifetime. And so while it can be challenging at times, it is ultimately incredibly rewarding for healing and developing the other side of ourself. Having a deep, loving experience allows you to become in touch with that aspect of your own feminine self expressed outward in your partner. So best of luck to you. It will be challenging, but ultimately really, really rewarding, I think, for you. So keep at it. Don't give up, whatever you're working on. The Hanged Man just kind of coming up, for sure, for sure. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you coming in and trusting me to read a card for you. A few cards for you. Anytime. I try to do these I've been trying to do these a few nights a week. And of course, things happen, but I'm usually here a couple nights a week, and I also do private readings. So if anyone is interested in that, currently I am behind on several of them, so I will not be getting to it immediately until I get these taken care of. I apologize again for not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I was distracted today. That's all there is to it. The Hanged Man, for someone, we are going to need to be learning to be peaceful with the waiting. Sometimes we have to wait. We cannot rush. The Hanged Man is not in control. And there are some things that we have a great deal of control over. In fact, one could argue that technically we actually have control over everything, but I believe that you're not able to be in control of things that you're not able to see coming. And so for that logic, it actually doesn't make sense to say that we could possibly have full control. In order to have full control, I would need to be able to make choices and not react to what's occurring. And some things I did not know were coming. But the Hangman is saying that it's not the time for decisions. So if you've been thinking about jumping into a decision, but you feel frozen, unable to make this decision, so whoever out there is listening to this and is feeling unable to make a decision, unable to push forward, you're not supposed to right now. You're not there right now. Right now, you're figuring out what's really next. You're waiting for the right moment. And you're perfectly content with where you're at. There's nothing wrong with where you're at and waiting. We're always programmed to believe that we have to hurry. We don't have to hurry. Everything is timed the way it's timed. So there's no need to understand why things didn't happen before, or why they're only happening now, or why they only feel like they're just getting started. You're not going to understand that anyway. So don't bother. I'm really not that cynical. But it is just a greater sense of peace when you stop letting go, or when you start letting go of feeling like you could know everything. That's a big misconception, I think, for a lot of people who are like, oh, you read cards, or oh, you're a psychic or whatever, and like see things in your dreams and etc. Like you know, it's like there's just, first of all, it's not even possible for me to know everything. But even if I did, I wouldn't necessarily understand all of it. We're so limited in what we're allowed to not necessarily see, but understand. And sometimes that's for the best, because I think if I had to, or wanted to, or needed to, in order to continue find some understanding in this, it would probably drive me crazy. Because then you would have to justify why beautiful people are taken too soon from the world and things like that. So I would rather not know all the answers, so I don't have to try to explain that to somebody's mother. I would rather know that some things are beyond us, and there must have been some greatness that we needed to know about, or reflect on, or address within ourselves, and that is why we experience that thing, and we don't know why that is, but there's got to be something. And so there's, for me, a sense of peace in feeling like there's got to be something, but I definitely just probably am never going to know what that is. I have more peace in that than just kind of throwing it all up to uncertainty. It's like, I'm sure there definitely is a reason. I'm quite confident in that, but I'm also okay in not knowing what that reason is. My life has been weird but delightful. And as of late, making a lot more sense finally, a little bit. Um, Feeling a lot more secure in myself, in my choices and my decisions. So I'm just hanging out now, I guess. If there's anybody else that would like to have anything addressed or have me do any readings for them while I'm hanging out here. Much love to everyone who did stop by or who will stop by in the future and just happens to be here right now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of okay with it being a short night. It's a little bit of a drastic. So, one last card, just because I felt inspired to. We're gonna do lifting the veil. This is questioning everything. Right after I talk about how I don't need to answer it, like what you should question it. Don't overanalyze it, but just ask the questions of it. But that is kind of the fine line that it's asking you to walk. You know, can you ask questions of something without knowing the answer? Can you explore the possibilities and the perspective that can be brought to you in all of its different ways and experiences? Anything unaligned must go. You're advancing along this journey very quickly, maybe even a little bit more quickly than you realized, and it can feel very heavy very quickly, as though you're almost trying to carry too much. It's like the first time you get to go on a trip after a long time and you think, I need to make sure I have everything just in case. And you're focused so much on taking everything with you that you never stop to question what doesn't belong here, what is not necessary, what are you actually going to use versus what are you not. What is a part of this journey right now and what can just be left behind as a part of the past. So if we're lifting the veil, that means, and to go back to the tarot reading that I started with today, the questioning, um, and the being brutally honest with what is it that you're looking for, what is it that you're wanting and desiring here. Lifting the veil entails you being honest with yourself about what your motives are and what your real goals are and what it is that you really want and hope for, and why you're not allowing yourself to have it. So that's all I have to say tonight. I don't know. I'm just done now. So sometimes you just get to the end. But I hope everyone that listens enjoyed this reading tonight. I will probably stop by tomorrow night and do one more quick reading, and then I'll be back this weekend, Saturday and Sunday nights. There will be a little bit more in-depth topic and discussion, as well as some chats. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining in. Thank you for caring about yourself and for wanting to experience better life and be a better person and make a better world. Much love to you.